What do companies think they're buying when they actually hire a project manager? And what are they actually paying for? Most project managers would probably answer scope, schedule, budget, risk, and status reports. And that's what came to your mind. I think you're answering the wrong question. Okay, wait, just for a quick minute. Quick question. Have you ever gone to McDonald's wondering whether they remembered how to make a Big Mac? Probably not. Why? Because consistency isn't impressive, it's expected. You know, two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onion on that sesame seed bun. I know you're trying to get hungry, but wait, just follow me for a moment. They don't win your business because they remember the recipe. They lose your business if they forget it. And I think that's exactly what's happening in project management. Companies expect us to know how to build schedules. They expect us to manage scope. They expect us to communicate. They even expect us to track risks. But those aren't the things that separate exceptional project managers anymore. They're just the minimum expectation. Therefore, organizations have started looking for something different. Someone who can navigate difficult customers and challenging stakeholders, someone who could communicate with confidence when the room doesn't have all the answers, and someone who creates clarity when everyone else sees a little bit of uncertainty. See, that's when it hit me. Companies don't hire project managers because they know how to manage projects. They hire project managers because they know how to move a business through uncertainty. Here's a reflection, family. The fundamentals of project management haven't become less important. They've become expected. The value of your profession doesn't decrease. The definition of your value has evolved. The organizations that hire exceptional project managers aren't looking for someone who simply keeps a project moving. They're looking for someone who keeps the business moving when uncertainty threatens to slow it down. That realization that realization right there, it changed how I think about this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management. And I believe it's changing what it means to become an exceptional project manager. Principle number one, the fundamentals get you in the door, judgment keeps you in the room. Imagine hiring an electrician. You don't congratulate them for knowing how to wire an outlet. You expect it. The same is true to project management. Companies expect us to understand scope. They expect us to build schedule. They expect us to manage budgets. They expect us to facilitate meetings. And they definitely expect us to communicate status. Those aren't differentiators anymore. They're the price of admission. But when a project starts slipping, when two executives disagree, when a customer is losing confidence, when priorities suddenly change, nobody asks, can someone update the Gantt chart? Know what they do ask? They ask, who's going to help us figure this out? Therefore, the value shifts from managing the project to leading people through uncertainty. Here's a lesson, family, I want you to think about. Your greatest value isn't your ability to organize work. It's your ability to help people make better decisions when the path forward isn't that obvious. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, don't just report what happened. Explain what it means. Anyone can provide information. Leaders provide interpretation. Oh, I like that, family. Here's the second one. Before every meeting, ask yourself this quick question. What decision needs to be easier because I'm in the room? That question alone changes your role from coordinator to business leader. Here's my professional advice. One of the biggest career mistakes I see project managers make is believing that more documentation automatically creates more value. Documentation creates visibility. Judgment creates confidence. And confidence is what executives remember. So if judgment is becoming more valuable than coordination, what good is great judgment if nobody trusts you enough to actually follow you? Principle number two, companies don't need more information. They need someone people will follow. You can have all the right answers. You can identify risks 6 weeks before everyone else. You can know exactly what the project needs, but if nobody listens, did your expertise create value? We can all figure that out together. Probably not. Therefore, companies aren't just paying for your knowledge, they're paying for your influence. If you've seen project managers with 20 years of experience who couldn't get a simple decision made, I've seen project manager with only a few years of experience completely change the direction of a project. The difference wasn't seniority. The difference was credibility. People trusted them. They listened before they spoke. They communicated clearly. They stayed calm Under pressure, they help people solve problems together instead of trying to win arguments. You know what we call that? That's what we call influence. Here's the lesson, family, I want you to think about. Influence isn't about getting your way. It's about helping people move toward the best decision, even when it's uncomfortable. Here's 2 actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, I want you to speak last. Ask thoughtful questions before offering your opinion. People support decisions they help create. Second, stop trying to prove you're the smartest person in the room. We get it. What I'm asking you to do is become the person who helps everyone else think more clearly. That's the person executives remember. Here's my professional advice, family. The higher you move in your career, the less your value comes from having answers, the more it comes from creating alignment. Anyone can identify a problem. Leaders create movement. Oh, this is getting good to me, family. So now we've uncovered 2 things companies are actually buying. They're buying judgment. They're buying influence. But I still don't think we reached the biggest one yet, because neither judgment nor influence matters if you're thinking like an employee instead of an owner. Principle number 3, exceptional project managers think like business owners. Woo. Isn't that the truth? Because here's the biggest shift I've seen in the last decade. Organizations aren't looking for someone to manage tasks. They're looking for someone who owns the outcome. Employees ask, what am I responsible for? Owners ask, what does the business need? I like that, and I'm going to say it again. Employees ask, what am I responsible for? Owners ask, what does the business need? You see, employees protect their lane. Owners, we got a little problem. We like to cross the lane. Employees, you know what they do. They want to report the problems, but owners, they solve them. Employees wait for direction. Owners, they create momentum. That's why the best project managers feel different. They don't act like administrators. They act like business leaders who happen to manage a project. Here's the lesson, family, I want you to think about. The project was never the product. The business outcome is. Here's 2 actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, before every project, ask yourself, if this project succeeds, how does the business become better? If you can't answer that question, you're managing activities instead of outcomes. Second, before every executive meeting, ask yourself, what decision will help the business move faster? That's where the value actually lives. Here's my professional advice, family. Don't become known as the person who runs meetings. Become known as the person who makes the meetings actually matter. That's a completely different reputation. Here's my final reflection. Remember that question I asked you at the beginning? What do companies think they're buying when they hire a project manager, and what are they actually paying for? I think we have the final answer. They think they're hiring someone to manage projects, but what they're really paying for is someone who brings judgment when others hesitate, influence and collaboration when teams become divided, ownership when accountability becomes unclear, and clarity when uncertainty is at its highest. Yes, the schedule matters. Yes, budget matters. Yes, scope matters. And of course, communication matters. Those will always be part of our profession, but they aren't what people remember. People remember who made the impossible feel manageable. They remember that when a project was drifting, you brought it back into focus. They remember that when everyone else was reacting, you were already thinking 3 steps ahead. Now this is what we're talking about. That's the value of project management today, not because the fundamentals disappear, but because they become the expectation. The future belongs to project managers who don't just manage the work, they elevate the business. Here are my closing thoughts, family. As you move through your career, don't ask yourself whether you're managing projects well. Ask yourself whether you're creating the kind of value organizations can't afford to lose. Because at the end of the day, companies don't remember project managers with the best schedule. They remember the leader who gave them confidence when uncertainty was at its highest. And remember, sets and reps beat talent when talent doesn't do the reps. If you're new to the episode, I go by the name ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, just listen. That just simply means Ed. Until next time.